Guys, yeah.
Just for the sake of more discussions, is that the key factors you consider when you're prioritizing it, the economy's development agenda, job creation, and all that. Those are some of the things we consider. And our discussion here, it's in regard to the enforcement of anti-competitive practices. And what I think when I look at these things, they are usually more on public interest criteria. When we have prioritized in regard to the enforcement, when we are analyzing mergers, we also put them at the back of our mind that we also give them more weight. I would like to have your thoughts on that.
Well, you mean kind of using public interest criteria in deciding merger cases?
Yes, and giving it more weight. Most of us here, we have the public interest tests and also the SLC tests. When we have prioritized in terms of the anti-competitive practices, when we are analyzing the mergers, do we think also of putting more weight to public interest criteria?
Well, you know, I was about to break now and you asked me a difficult question. Okay, well, that is like, you know, that is a difficult question. I think that I think a lot of us do have public interest criteria that we'd have to take into account in merger evaluation, and the trick is to kind of weigh, the idea is that we can balance and weigh all these things up, and there might be instances in which a public interest criterion outweighs a purely competition criterion. I think those are very, very difficult things to do. We've had a few occasions in South Africa where we've been forced to do that. We've never had, well, except for one instance, we've never had an instance where the public interest criteria outweighed the competition criteria to the extent that it trumped in the decision making. Mostly because we've always been able to find remedies to cure the non-competition issues. So take the Walmart case, right? So there was a huge cry about Walmart, but once we got Walmart to set up a developmental fund in order to promote supply chain management, and you know, once we got them to do those kinds of issues, it made it, well, certainly it came across as though they were kind of contributing towards curing the very problem that gave rise to those public interest issues. I think that this is kind of, you know, this is territory that still has to be deepened and explored by all of us, and I mean, it's not going to be easy. I think certainly what the public interests, when public interest issues in mergers get raised, what it does to the agency is that we then required as agencies to engage with those issues and make arguments and justify our decisions in relation to these public interest issues. It puts us in a spot to kind of defend our decision making in relation to these public interest issues. That's not easy. We've had a tough time in doing that, but I mean, I think it's part of what we have to do. We've got to live with. We've got to, you know, it puts the kind of spotlight on an issue and we've got to engage with it.